welcome to another glorious episode of Rogue Monk Rambles. I have decided I'm sticking with that, so yeah, it's it's quite stuck in my head. So we'll go with Rogue Monk Rambles. You'll be pleased to know, I'm sure, that I won't be talking about myself today. I'll be talking about bargain-loving Brits in the sun, mainly Benidorm. If you've ever seen the show, it's about British people and their love of Benidorm. Now, I've been to Benidorm a few times in my younger years, with family and everything. So, I do see the appeal. It's a nice warm place, cheap booze, cheap food, cheap everything. And yeah, over the years I've come to sort of go elsewhere, broaden the place I go on holiday. And over the years I've seen that through watching this particular show as well, it's become a glorified Skegness, basically. You've got I think the biggest difference is it's warmer, and yeah, I think that's the biggest difference is it's just a warmer Skegness. Because you get all your cheap tat on the markets and shops and everything else, where everything you tend to find in Skegness is what you'll pretty much find the same quality of stuff in Benidorm. But yeah, this week I'm just talking about people that want to move to Benidorm and Spain, that sort of area. And through watching this show, it's watching different people do the going over, wanting to move there. Quite a few do look into stuff before they move, but it's more so a couple that was on it towards the back end of the series that just really got me thinking of people that that just tend to want to go there, think it's going to be an easy ride, going to be an easy journey, easy process to make and moving over there. And it just seems to be that the people that do that don't tend to look into stuff, don't tend to do the research into moving before they do it, is usually the ones that have that entitlement feeling, that the feeling of being entitled. And because Brits go there, that it'll be a case of, oh, I'm just going to up and move, go, that's it. But yeah, this one couple that was wanting to move there, it was following those over like 2 or 3 episodes, I think it was. And yeah, they had that, they came across as being a bit entitled, and as if that because they're British and they wanted to move to an area where they got a lot of Brits, either tourists or British people that live there as well. So it was predominantly a touristy, Britishy hotspot, if you will. Meow. That's Sooty, because I'm busy again and he's got to get my attention, just to make a change for those who know Sooty. But yeah, it started off, they basically just decided to pack their home up in Britain, sell everything on, give it away, whatever. They just packed their essentials, clothes, toiletries, anything that encompasses these basic essentials, and they went over there. They got a few apartments lined up to look at, but then going through the process of getting that apartment, or one of the apartments at least, was they'd not properly looked into the logistics and the paperwork element of moving out, because I can only assume it's a bit different to moving over here, to some degree at least. So yeah, they'd not really looked into it. So they'd originally planned to stay in a hotel for a few days, while they thought it was going to be a case of we'll go over, stay in a hotel, view the property, move in. But that didn't pan out, so they had to look for another apartment or another place to stay. And by this point, you could tell that they'd started to get to the point where they were starting to panic because they didn't look into it, and the reality was setting in for them, where it wasn't going to be as plain sailing as they thought it was. So yeah, so just to look into that, if you're going to do that kind of thing, do the research before you go there. Look into the processes, and maybe try and find communities that are over there in Spain that have moved there, in order to gain some sort of insight before you do that, because moving in any country within the same country is a pain anyway. It's for anyone who has moved, you'll sort of know that it's not straightforward. Things can happen, but if you Sooty going to the toilet is a bit incompetent with his litter. Yeah, but if you're going to move abroad, especially, just look into what that entails, like the way that country works or area works. So yeah, you could tell by this point that they'd not done that, and it was becoming a bit of a pain for them in doing that, because they're having to spend more on hotels and and that kind of thing. So the budget for moving and putting a deposit on a property was shrinking. So again, it's that sort of level of entitlement from these people that when reality started to set in for them, you could see that they were starting to panic and not know whether they'd have to come back to Britain. And if I'm to remember rightly, they'd already entered their tenancy on their property they were living at, so they'd got to come back and start. If they were to come back to Britain, they'd have to start again from scratch, because that's my pen. Yeah, Sooty's got a thing about pens. So yeah, they was they'd sort of given everything up to move to Spain, because that's what they wanted to do, and yeah, they'd end up having to stay in a hotel longer, meaning that their deposit for the new apartment, wherever that was going to be that they moved, that deposit was shrinking, because again, they'd not looked into it, and they'd realised at this point that the hotels were becoming quite expensive and what have you. And eventually they did get sorted with an apartment over there, which is great for them. So they eventually got sorted. And as these episodes were passing on, I was just thinking, well, how can people not look into that? How can you just think, oh well, Brits go there, so it's going to be easy? I've never tried to move there, because if I wanted to move somewhere like that, I'd just move to Skegness. But yeah, I don't understand how you can just do it on a whim, because it's a big thing moving anyway, let alone to somewhere in a different country. So when they finally got settled, finally got sorted, should I say, with the property they got settled in, and it was to the point where they were low on money because of the hotels and putting the deposit down and getting new stuff for the apartment. Yeah, they were starting to look for jobs. Now, while it is mostly Brits or British or English speaking people that live over there, it is still in Spain. So at this point I thought, yeah, if I were to think about that, I'd at least learn the basics of Spanish, to form basic I'd at least have some knowledge of the Spanish language prior to moving there, but these didn't, and they were going around bars, restaurants, wherever to find jobs, and the filming crew were following them along their journey, and quite a few of them said that because they haven't bothered to learn the basics of Spanish or become fluent enough in Spanish, they weren't getting the jobs, because while they do serve a lot of English people, or English speaking people, should I say, they still serve Spanish people as well, and some of their bosses are Spanish, so you've got to have some level of Spanish language or fluency in the language. So they were more reality was setting in that it is harder than they were thinking, and I was just thinking, well, why would you move somewhere foreign and not bother learning the language just because it's a tourist hotspot among Brits and English speaking people? And again, it raises that element of entitlement among these people. Like, I say these people, but I mean people like that do that and expect it to be an easy ride because others have done it. And yeah, they've got shut down quite a bit, and it was becoming more apparent that they were struggling because again, they'd not researched moving to Spain, and they were struggling in that struggling because it was harder than they were thinking, and even some of these holiday caravan places that have been built by British people, like to have that English community. They've got these like little areas where all the Brits do come about, and a lot of them have said that yes, while they do reside in English-speaking areas, they do learn the basics of the Spanish language, because if they were to travel about to out of the tourist areas, you find more Spanish people, obviously, and they'd have to learn the language. They've learned the language, or the basics at least, to form the basics of a conversation with those people, and that's the best thing to do for them, because again, it's a Spanish language and it's a Spanish country, so yeah, learning that language is, you'd think it was essential because you're wanting to move there. So yeah, they eventually found jobs where, and they were finding other people, British people, that were teaching the Spanish language to help people that were moving there. And it was a couple of episodes later where the series ended, and they were starting to find the feet eventually. But again, it's to look at the process of going there. Most people did sort of research what it was like to do the move before they moved, just to get an idea of what the process would be, what sort of paperwork would go through with that move, because again, I can only assume it'd be different to moving out in Britain. But yeah, so a lot of them did have the common sense to research it, and yeah, there was obviously a few stumbles along their journey, but they were more prepared than this particular couple, who who didn't research anything. They just up sticks and left. And it was their journey that got me thinking, you know, why do people have to have that sense of entitlement? Because it doesn't benefit them or anybody, because, you know, they want to move somewhere that is a foreign country, and while it is a lot of tourist, obviously Benidorm, you do get your tourist people, as I say, that are mostly Brits, because it's just as I've said, it's just basically a warmer Skegness, you know. But yeah, it's just that entitlement in the smaller pockets of people that I'll never understand, why people need to feel that entitled, that just because X amount of Brits have moved there, and again, I can only assume that it's this program that's sort of edited it down into, obviously, because they only get, I think the show was about an hour long, or about 45 minutes if you take the ad breaks off, you know. So they've got hours and hours and hours of filming to edit down into 45 minutes. So you do get your things that are missed off, that don't make the cut for the show. And, you know, so by the time you get to the show, it's you get a little bit of backstory into, I don't know, Janet and Dean, for example. You know, they moved from, I don't know, wherever in the UK, and then it gives a brief snapshot into their move. So you get snippets of this bit, this bit, this bit, and this bit, and then it makes it seem easier than it actually is. So you say, oh yeah, we encountered this issue with this, or this issue with that, you know. But then it doesn't give the bigger picture of, like, what can happen. It doesn't give the full story as to their move. You just see snippets, and then it all culminates in a 45-minute show where, yeah, we moved, we did this, we got a community set up here, we joined this community, we found all these new friends, X, Y, Z, and again, it shortens the bigger picture. And I can sort of, from that aspect, I can see why people do get entitled, and do have that entitled demeanour to say, well, I saw on this show that they had that move and it were fine. You know, they had a few hiccups, but they did it. But then again, as I've said, is you get the bigger picture that's shortened into a little show, and this is why I've always for anyone who, I will always say that if people do want to move anywhere in the world, research it before you do these things, because you'll end up, if you don't do research into it, then you're going to end up, could potentially, should I say, end up in a world of trouble. Because if you, again, getting the knowledge is by research into looking into these things. So yeah, overall the reality for them was a lot harder, because they thought, well, all these people are moving to Benidorm, so it must be easy. When, you know, I think the show's point was to also get across this message that researching stuff will be more beneficial than upping sticks and leaving. So yeah, it's a little snapshot into doing that, is research it, and then you'll get a better idea of what it's like to do that. But yeah, I mean, as I've said earlier, I've been to Benidorm a few times when I was younger, and, you know, it is nice if you want to, you know, have a nice cheap holiday, cheap booze, cheap food and everything. But, you know, looking back and looking at Benidorm now, as while it was nice at the time, it is, as I've said, just a a cheaper Skegness, a warmer Skegness, should I say. So if I wanted to do that, I'd just go to Skegness, during summer, because summer can be warm and yeah. So yeah, I've sort of lost my train of thought there because I got talking about Skegness and yeah. So it's that sort of entitlement that I don't understand, because if you're going to do it, look into it rather than just up in sticks and leave it. That's what I do in my head in. I just ramble, lose my train of thought, then backtrack on everything, and then I realise I've already said that. So yeah, that's just my opinions on the matter and my thoughts on it. So thank you again for watching my previous videos about me. As you've probably gathered, and as I've said myself, I don't like talking about myself, but I hope it has given a little insight into me and my previous drinking. Again, the previous videos, but do check those out if you've not already seen them. But yeah, this has been my take on bargain loving Brits in the sun. Is do your research, look into things, and see the process for what it is before you do it. Don't just think it's going to be easy, because although I've not experienced it myself, moving home in Britain can be difficult as it is, let alone moving to somewhere like Spain, which has got different rules, different tenancy, anything to do with tenancy. I'm sure they've got different rules to what we have over here and the process in that. So yeah, if you're going to move to Benidorm, research it, look into it rather than packing up and going, because like this couple had, they ended up forking out hundreds if not thousands on hotels just because they didn't research what it was going to be like in the process. But yeah, this has been Rogue Monk Rambles, and that's my take on people moving to Benidorm, or a warmer Skegness if you prefer that. But yeah, Rogue Monk Rambles. Please like, subscribe, and yeah, I've not really decided what topic I'm going to be talking about next week. I'm probably going to be talking about the Section 21, but I'll go through everything, my list, before I do it. But yeah, thank you for checking me out. Like, subscribe, and leave your comments and thoughts below. Thank you very much. See you later.